Everybody wants kung fu fighting, except for Red Pirate Fifth. He just wants a bottle of rum. Yes, he does. Oh, well, good afternoon there, me fine feathered friends. Good hearties. See that the wind blew you in it again, did it? Welcome aboard. Today, the other guy is going to get busy doing some wood stuff. I'll let him tell you all about it. All right? Okay.
Well, while Biff is busy practicing his rum drinking kung fu, I'm going to get busy with the wood. Today, I'm probably going to attempt to laminate the ash boards that I have so that I can fabricate the rudder teaks, because I need to replace them. In other news, you may remember that I've discovered a big check in my boomkin wood. The company that I bought it from is quite willingly going to replace it. So my bowsprit wood and the new boomkin wood should be here either Wednesday or Thursday. Today's Monday, so it's not too bad of a setback. It's only 3 days, and I don't have to pay for shipping. So shout out to those guys. In the meantime, I'm going to make some space and do a little laminating. And I've never done any laminating before, but done a bit of reading on it, watched a few YouTube videos. Thanks, guys. And we'll proceed accordingly. What I've done here is to protect the wood from any epoxy spillover. So I've ran a line of tape along the seam, then put some wax paper down on top of the tape to protect it. The epoxy won't stick to wax, which is kind of handy. So if there's any spillover, I can just peel it off and I don't have to spend hours sanding or taking the chance of wrecking the finish of the wood, so that I can just stain it and shape it and get it done. So that's what it looks like. I did both sides of each board, and then I'm going to put my epoxy on the join, clamp them together, and move on to the next chore. Well, so far so good. It looks like a nice tight seam, and if my clamps hold, we should have a solid laminated board. One of the tricks that I read about online was to make sure that the clamps aren't too tight, because you want some of your epoxy material to stay in the joint. If you squeeze it too hard, all of the material will squeeze out, and you won't have anything to bond your wood together with. So that's going to take some time to cure up. I'll leave it overnight. Hopefully nobody disturbs it. And tomorrow we'll come back and see what kind of job I did and whether my wax paper and tape solution worked or not. Okay, here's what I am doing. I've got a little Dremel tool with a stone bit in the end of it, and I'm going to use that to clean up the holes that I drilled in the sampson post. This is my sampson post. You can see I routed the edges with a 3/8 round router bit, but I don't have a suitable router bit to clean up the edges for the bolt holes. So what I'm going to do is clean those up on both sampson posts, and then I'm going to mix up some penetrating epoxy and run it through those holes. Those particular holes won't be exposed to seawater, but on the off chance that water does leak in, I don't want it running down through the bolt, along the bolt, getting into the wood and rotting it, because that's what happened before. And then once that's done, where the sampson post goes through the hole in the deck, it works a little bit. There's about a 1/16 inch gap between the edge of the post and the deck itself. So I want to put embed a plate of fiberglass into the wood itself. So I'm going to take my router and router out a section and then put some fiberglass in there. I'll probably not apply the glass directly. I'll make a fiberglass board so it's nice and smooth, and then inlay it. So a quick 5-minute job. It was easy, straightforward, and did a fairly nice job of cleaning up those holes so I can put my bolt through without tearing wood and splintering it. So, take 5 minutes out of your day and make something a little better than it would be otherwise. I like it. So I'm going to put those aside and I will work on the boomkin. Okay, the boomkin, one piece that's still good. I've cleaned up the holes on it. Now, if you look at these guys, they're supposed to be 3/8 inches wide, but that's a fair bit bigger than 3/8 inches wide. And the reason that I did it oversized like that is so that I can fill those holes up with epoxy, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm simply going to put a piece of tape over each hole, flip it over, and fill those bad boys up with epoxy. Then I'm going to re-drill them to the correct size. And what that'll do is give me a sleeve of epoxy all the way through, so that when this piece of wood is exposed to the sea, and it will be exposed to the sea, any water that sneaks underneath the hardware, the bolts, the washers, and so on, will not be able to penetrate the wood and rot it out like it was rotted out before. I think that's a very, very good idea. And so I'm going to go ahead and do it. As always, doing do-it-yourself projects on a boat is a learning experience, and the learning curve is short and steep. Successfully filled the holes on the boomkin piece, but I think I made the epoxy mix a little bit too thick. I'm using 403 microfiber adhesive additive to the epoxy, and I put in about 2 tablespoons full. But when I went to put it in the holes, as you could probably tell on the video, maybe not, it didn't want to run into the holes very readily. It, I had to use a paintbrush, a thin paintbrush, and kind of push it down to work the bubbles out and so on. And as it is now, I've left a little bit of a mound over top of the holes, so that I'll have to sand down once it's cured. So come and have a look. There you can see how the epoxy is just a little bit proud, but it'll fill the drill holes and the bit that I sanded out with the Dremel tool, and that should work out to be a nice flat, solid sleeve for the bolts when they eventually go in there. Anyway, I think that's about it for today. It's not too horribly late. But I think I need to get myself home and enjoy my supper and a nice evening. And we'll be back tomorrow to see how all this stuff worked out. Hopefully good. If you like the video, do hit subscribe and give us a thumbs up. It helps get more traffic. Thanks. As always, fair winds, following seas, and God bless.